Doom Eternal is an excellent FPS and one of the very best of the generation, but it's clear that it will not be for everyone. From a gameplay standpoint, it's one of the most mechanically grounded games out there and probably the finest arena shooter. Developer id Software forces you to play its way, but that may not be the way you want to play. The 2016 Doom reboot gave players a toy box full of weapons and just said go have fun. Eternal takes that toy box and promises that if you play the way it wants you to, you'll have even more fun. For me, that was absolutely right, but I can see it not working for everyone in this more cartoony version. Some people just want to cut loose and rip apart some demons without worrying about managing resources or swapping weapons, and those people are better served playing Doom 2016. But to me, this was all a welcome addition to streamline the chaos without neutering any of the intensity. Doom is about a legendary warrior, the Doom Slayer, killing demons to the sound of glorious heavy metal, and that's very much the case here, but now there's a little more to it. Players have to manage health, ammo, and armor even more consciously than before, and each has a dedicated gameplay mechanic to facilitate this. Doom 2016 introduced glory kills, satisfyingly brutal execution animations done to enemies close to death, which regenerates the player's health. This forces players to play aggressively and is even more essential in Eternal as enemies do more damage and pickups are much more scarce. Similarly, replenishing ammo is done by carving through demons with a chainsaw. Again, this was present as a mechanic in Doom 2016, but in Eternal you will be channeling your inner lumberjack much more frequently. The weapon can be used on any fodder class enemy using one charge which replenishes over time. Additional single-use charges can be found in the world, allowing you to one-shot heavy demons by using all 3 charges at once. Finally, there's the Flame Belch, a shoulder-mounted flamethrower which causes enemies to leak armor like a colander. Multiple enemies can be sprayed at once to maximize your armor yield, and killing enemies affected by the belch will yield even more armor. All 3 of these techniques are essential to your success in Doom Eternal, and solely running and gunning will only get you so far. This need to manually replenish your resources certainly won't be for everyone, especially for those who do just want to run and gun. But to me, it helped solidify Doom 2016's already compelling gameplay loop and take it to the next level. These mechanics never got in the way of the action or my momentum. Yes, they made me change course, but my speed and demon slaying prowess was never compromised. But if all you want to do is just shoot demons, there are several tools to choose from, all of which have their own progression and mechanics to master. Most of the weapons are the same as those found in 2016, aside from a few which I won't spoil here. Each one has up to 2 mods which can be switched out on the fly to quickly change up a strategy. For example, the combat shotgun, your first weapon, functions as one would expect it to, but can be equipped with a sticky grenade launcher or a fully automatic mod. Each mod can then be further upgraded with perks using weapon points which are earned by completing combat encounters and secret encounters throughout the missions. Both of these mods feel very different and allow for totally different strategies. The automatic mod turns the shotgun into more of a Gatling gun, dealing high damage very quickly but at the expense of burning through ammo fast. The grenade launcher mod, on the other hand, does exactly what it says on the tin and is a quick way to blow up some of the weaker enemies or deal decent damage to the big boys. But its most effective use is taking out enemy weak points. Weak points are a new addition in Eternal and disable certain attacks by tougher enemies. The famous Arachnotron makes its long-awaited return, complete with its rear-mounted cannon. This cannon can be crippled by a well-placed sticky grenade, thereby making your life much easier. Arachnotrons can still be killed without destroying the cannon, but it is their most dangerous weapon, so it's in your best interest to remove it from the chessboard. The chessboard analogy is something I've heard creative director Hugo Martin mention several times in interviews about the game, and it's absolutely accurate. Each demon, weapon, and ability has a role to play in the wider chess game. Every demon behaves differently. Some are ranged or fly, while others are up close and personal, like a clingy aunt at Christmas who won't leave you alone. The queen piece of this chess game is undeniably the Marauder. This guy is the toughest demon in town and can rip and tear almost as well as you can. Almost. He has a shield which blocks all damage from all weapons, he has a shotgun which blasts you away and does hefty damage, and he has an axe which sends energy blasts flying at you across the arena. Killing this guy requires focusing all your skills into this Goldilocks sweet spot of not too close and not too far, all the while dashing to avoid his hyper-aggressive attacks. His first appearance in a boss battle felt like what I'd been working towards throughout the entire game.
What is he doing?
He's beginning to believe.
When I finally beat him, I knew it was because I was a beast. I was
The Doom Slayer.
But what Doom like to do is turn its bosses into standard enemies that show up in regular fights with all the other future mincemeat. It's at these moments where the flow of combat is completely shattered by these bastards. I'm sure some will like the additional challenge of these guys, but to me it just got in the way of everything else. The strategies for all other demons can fluidly blend into one another and adapt as the encounter evolves, but the Marauders require such a specific approach that it doesn't gel with the fight as a whole in the same way the other enemies do. As soon as these assholes show up, I'm just like,
That's what I fucking needed. Get the fuck out of here.
Let me help you to see, Slayer.
Get the fuck out of here.
even without Marauders, Doom Eternal is a very challenging game. My rule when it comes to video game difficulty is to play on whatever the default is and then crank it up for a subsequent playthrough. After my first run on the suggestively named Hurt Me Plenty, I went back through every mission on Nightmare to clean up any collectibles or secrets I'd missed. While I did have all my weapons and upgrades from my Hurt Me Plenty playthrough giving me a huge advantage over starting from scratch, the fights on Nightmare really are something else. In addition to weapon upgrades, there are Praetor suit upgrades and Sentinel Crystal upgrades. Praetor tokens, which are found in the world, allow you to boost your suit abilities, like grenades and environmental traversal, while Sentinel Crystals allow you to bolster your health, armor, or ammo. Sentinel upgrades are broken into blocks, with 2 upgradable slots on each block, and when both are obtained, an additional perk is then made available. Nightmare difficulty is absolutely the way the game should be played, but Ultra Nightmare can fuck off.
Hey, pussy.
Fuck off.
Going back to lower modes feels pathetically slow by comparison and means relearning those bad habits which cause mistakes. Nightmare's got no time for that shit, and when it isn't entirely crushing, it constantly pushes you to be a better player and master the game's systems. One thing that doesn't get much more fun the more you master it is the platforming. In the past, Doom has employed platforming to hide secrets and collectibles, but in Eternal some sections of levels are entirely built around it. I never hated the platforming sections, and at times found them to be a pleasant respite from the white knuckle gunplay. That said, I certainly didn't like them, and they are pretty mundane to get through as you begrudgingly jump and air dash through them to get to the good stuff. Fundamentally, it all feels a bit imprecise and frustrating because failure rarely feels like it's actually your fault. Fortunately, the game respawns you quickly with only a small portion of health and armor lost, so it's very forgiving. Even if you do ultimately perish, the load screens are very short, meaning that you're back to the action and bloodshed almost instantly. All that action and bloodshed takes place in a 15-hour story across 13 linear levels that is possibly the dumbest B-movie plot you've ever seen in a video game, but by no means do I mean that in a bad way. It's exactly the best kind of hokey and cheesy in all the right ways. Doom isn't exactly known for story either, so if you don't care about it, you don't have to engage with it at all, and all the cutscenes can be skipped so none of it gets in the way. If you do want more story, however, or more accurately, more lore, there is plenty of it. Throughout each level there are multiple codex logs hidden as collectibles, all of which provide more context and an explanation of what's going on around you, as well as detailed information about the demons you're slaying and the Doomslayer's origins. In addition to text logs, players can also find hidden music from previous id Software games which can be played at your Fortress of Doom hub base, collectible action figures which give you access to detailed character models, secret encounters which are timed battles which typically pit you against a handful of enemies with a 30-second time limit, and Slayer Gates, which are perhaps where the gameplay is at its absolute strongest. Slayer Gates transport you to a new combat challenge arena where the rules are simple: kill
Everyone! Kill him. Kill them all.
Unfortunately, to play these again you'll have to find them in the level and track down their keys, which are usually hidden nearby. Replaying these as a selectable mode in addition to the campaign and multiplayer modes would really extend the game's lifespan. Speaking of the multiplayer mode, Doom Eternal features the brand new Battle Mode. This sets players up in a 2v1 arena where the solo Doomslayer will have to take on 2 player-controlled demons. The Slayer has all the weapons and skills unlocked through the campaign, but the demons are much more interesting to players after having spent so long as the Slayer. You can assume the role of Revenant, Archivile, Mancubus, Pain Elemental, or Marauder. All these beasties play differently and have unique abilities to get revenge on the Slayer. The Marauder may sound like an exciting opportunity to turn the tables, but just feels like you're playing as Bruce Wayne compared with the campaign's much cooler Batman. Demon players can also summon other demons, adding another layer of strategy to proceedings. Overall, I wasn't crazy about the mode because it felt unbalanced and nowhere near as tight as the single player combat encounters, but to be fair, multiplayer isn't really my thing anyway, so I'm sure some of you will still get a kick out of it. All in all, Doom Eternal is an excellent excellent sequel to Doom 2016 and greatly expands on the solid groundwork laid by id Software 4 years ago. However, while I thoroughly appreciated the evolution, I'm sure many fans of the previous version will feel restricted. Even if the gameplay isn't for you, Eternal is technically brilliant with excellent performance and graphics, though the more cartoony and less grim art style with bright neon coloured pickups might put some people off this time around. Doom Eternal feels like FPS heroin. It will make you feel euphoric when it goes well and treats you like a £5 whore when you fail. It's addictive and constantly rewarding with one of the tightest gameplay loops I've played in years. Mastering the weapons and systems, uncovering every hidden secret, beating milestones and earning cosmetics kept me coming back for more long after I beat the final boss. If you can get behind the play our way and we promise you'll have more fun premise, then you'll be slaying demons like you were born to do it, truly embodying the main song, "The only thing they fear is you." If that's not for you, then just stick to ripping and tearing with Doom 2016 and save your cash.